I'm Ann Perez. I used to be a high school English teacher, and now I create professional learning like this. I'm joined today with my colleagues Danielle Peck and Tom Ballou.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I also used to be a high school English teacher, but I'm so happy to be here with you now. Today, as Anne mentioned, we are joined by Tom Ballou, and I am going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
And my name is Tom Ballou, and I've had the pleasure of working in special education in middle school and high school and adults schools for almost 20 years.
Tom, we are so excited to talk with you today. So, we are on our collaboration and feedback series now, and today we're going to be focusing on problem solving with Tom. So we will get into our level setting for today, which comes from a Mind Manager blog post called What is Problem Solving? We wanted to give all of us a definition to work with. So the definition we found is this. A good problem solving definition might be finding solutions to difficult or complex issues. In practice, however, solving problems in the workplace is a little more immersive than that. It may, for example, include using a variety of tools, techniques, and resources to identify what's not working, figure out why it's broken, and determine the best course of action to fix it. Tom, I invite you now to let us know, what do you think about this definition?
Yeah, I think these are very accurate definitions. They're very workable and they're accessible. And what you have to keep in mind that, although these are three simple steps, oftentimes going through those processes are not necessarily simple in themselves. Identifying what's not working or could work better, that often requires mindfulness. You have to be paying attention. You have to be aware. You have to see the need and the opportunity to possibly improve, an existing situation. There's courage that's involved in that. You have to be willing to tackle that um, challenge, and you have to be willing to go to other individuals and engage with stakeholders who maybe are not as enthusiastic about that process or that change for that opportunity for change. You have to figure out why it's broken, gather data, step back and take a look at the need itself and, see what it is that actually needs to be fixed and if you're even headed in the right direction. Get creative, brainstorm. You have to keep your eye on the prize and know where you're headed. And ultimately, at the end, recognize that your efforts are going to be well served. What you're doing, the time that you're investing up front, you're front loading your work, and you're going to take an issue that is going to require some degree of effort regardless, and you're going to improve it for the better, and it's not going to be an issue down the road for you.
Tom, I so appreciated hearing you elaborate a little bit more with this definition. Something that struck me that you said was the definition itself does sound simple, but I think too often, from even my own personal experience, we can be so quick to jump to throwing solutions out there without, as you said, kind of like stepping back and being a little bit more mindful and um, working through determining what's really broken. So I really appreciated hearing that additional insight to what we have here. And it got me thinking, um, from your experience, can you share a time when problem solving really enhanced your work?
Yeah, I'm reminded of a cafeteria setting in a school where I once worked. This was a good program, great students, wonderful staff. However, lunch times were a bit of an issue, as many people can relate to. Things could get a little bit rowdy in the cafeteria. And initially, of course, our response was we would just assign more staff to the cafeteria. We would increase presence, but that didn't really decrease the rate of the incidences that were occurring. It only helped with our response times for the incidents. The staff could be right there and respond, but the incident itself was still happening. So we took a step back and we took a couple of weeks worth of observational data just to see what was really going on. And what it told us is that we didn't have a student issue in the cafeteria. we had a process issue in the cafeteria. So we took a look at the little things that we could do to maybe improve that process. Most of the issues that were occurring were related to movement. They were opportunistic while students were moving about the cafeteria. So we decided to change the process in the cafeteria to be able to influence some of those opportunities. There were 2 doors to the cafeteria. One of them we designated as the entrance, and that was the one closest to the serving line. The other became designated as the exit. Um, we took a look at standing in line, and we tried to do things that would minimize the amount of time that students could stand in line. We expedited the process and even kind of made things as self-serving as possible. Tables were rearranged for maximum space to allow for the flow of traffic. Trash cans were regularly spaced close to tables, and they were always in the same location. When we started to put those small adjustments into place, what we saw was that some of those opportunities, some of those, issues started to fall off dramatically. And those small adjustments, they had a large collective impact on the dining atmosphere and the number of referrals that were generated during that time of day. And ultimately, everyone really ended up winning out.
Tom, that is such a relatable story, not just to the cafeteria, but even thinking about just some of those, as you mentioned, like system issues that I saw even in my own classroom, maybe where things were placed and just some of those disruptions that I thought might have been more behavioral were really just the way that the system was working. So that gets me thinking of a key takeaway is the importance of recognizing our sphere of influence. Your story just really emphasized those small changes that you and your team did have control over within the cafeteria and the system itself. And those little changes really had a huge impact, as you mentioned, on the overall lunch experience for the kids. So that was an excellent way of showing how we have the ability to really make changes in those items that are within our control.
I absolutely agree, Anne. And one of the things that really stood out to me about the story, Tom, is something you said. You had a problem not with the students. It wasn't a student problem. It was a problem with processes in the cafeteria. And I think that's so important to keep in mind. The students are just kind of living their best life in the cafeteria. That was their lunchtime. They were just being students. I think that's important to remember. But there were systems, there were processes about movement and space that you can make changes to make lunch better for everyone in that cafeteria. And I think that's amazing. So the idea of fixing systems and not people. The people are great. The systems there might be some issues with that we can fix. And I think keeping focus on that is really important.
Yeah, and that ties directly into the third point where you have to understand the fundamental issues you're trying to solve. Clarity is key. If you go down the wrong route and you assume that the students are the issue or that it's just a staffing issue and you need more staff present, you're really going to be kind of going down the wrong trail. Sure, you might see some improvements, that's possible, but ultimately you're going to be investing energy into a solution that really is not on point for the problem. If you really kind of understand the fundamental issue that you're trying to solve, the process that is an issue, then you are going to get a lot better results. And oftentimes you're going to learn a lot more in that process as well.
That is a great point, and I'm so glad that you mentioned clarity because that's actually what our next session is about. But before we get there, what's next with this topic? Of course, we have our further reading. So again, that's What is Problem Solving from the Mind Manager blog. And as always, we have the PD on a page so you can go back there and check out all of our resources. Tom, thank you so much for being with us today. We really, really enjoyed talking with you. And thank you all of you who are listening right now. We will see you soon for our next session. Bye.